Hello guys, in this video we will design this newsroom application. Here we can scroll like this and read the latest news from various sources. And when we scroll down here we can see our top app bar will hide. And when we scroll up then we can see it will appear instantly. Again let's scroll down, here we can see it is hiding. And also in the top you can see we can read news from different categories. Like if I scroll like this, here we can see this will be the scrollable tab row. So here let's click on this sport category. Now it has loaded the sport categories news. And here we can see if I swipe right, here also in this way I can change the category of the news like this. And we can also see if we don't get the image from the news source, so we will show this default image. And also if I scroll down, and here we can see some images has not loaded, so it will show the loading image. Now if I click on any of this card, so what will happen, this bottom sheet will appear. So here I can read the news in brief. And if I swipe down, so here we can see I can close this bottom sheet. And also if I want to read the full news, so here there is a button called read full story. So let's click on this read full story button. And now we can see here this article has been loaded in our app. We can read the whole news article in our app itself. And now let's go back to the main screen. And also our app supports fully dark mode. So let's change it to dark mode like this. Now we can see our app is supporting fully dark mode. So now let's click on any of this card. And now we can see this bottom sheet is also in the dark mode. And one more feature there will be in our app, like if I press on this search icon, so this search bar will open. So here let's type Android. And now let's wait few milliseconds, and here we can see it has loaded itself. So let's click on this search icon, and here we can see we can read news related to Android. And now let's go back to the main screen. So let's click on this close icon and again on this close icon. Now we can see we can go back to our main screen. So this will be our app. We will design this application with the help of Jetpack Compose. So let's go to the Android Studio and create a new project. So I have created this new project. Now first we will go to this build.gradle project level. And here I have pasted this plugin ID of Dagger Hilts, because we will use this Dagger Hilt library for dependency injection. And also this Kotlin version we will use 1.8.20. Now let's go to the build.gradle module level. First let's go up. Here I have pasted these two IDs, and in our project we will use minimum SDK 21. And also I have pasted this value core library desugaring enabled. What this library will do, in our app we will use date time formatter class. That date time formatter class requires annotation of minimum SDK 24 something like. So here we are using this value and a dependency, this one. So with the help of these two things we don't need to provide that annotation for that class. And also we will use 1.4.6 compose compiler version. And here we are using this compose BOM. So with the help of this library we don't need to provide versions of each dependency separately. So this library will provide the versioning to all the compose libraries. And also we will use material 3 library in our application. And let's come down, and here we will use this compose navigation for navigation, and Dagger Hilt for dependency injection, and Retrofit for calling the API, and Coil for image loading, and this desugaring for that datetime formatter class. After this let's close this file. And here I have also pasted two image files. like this image placeholder for loading and this placeholder. So these two images you can get from the GitHub repository. And let's minimize this and let's close this. When we go to the main activity, so here we can see with the new project these some codes come. So let's clear this code and also this part. Now first of all what we will do, first let's go to the this color. So here we don't need all these colors, so let's delete these colors and let's rename this color to, so this color royal blue we will use. So now let's go to this theme file. Here we don't need to define all these things. Let's just define two things. Only these two things we will define because we will use these two properties only. So let's copy this and use it here also. So when our app will be in a dark mode, so this dark color scheme will apply, and when our app will be in the light mode, so this light color scheme will apply. And also let's scroll down. So here we can see this code has come with the new project. So with what this code will do, this code will help us in changing the color of that status bar. So here they are applying this primary color to that status bar. So we will use the primary container color, that color which we defined here. So in the dark mode this will be the black and in the light mode this will be the royal blue. So in this way we will change the status bar color. And now let's close this theme file and this color file. And here now first let's run our app and see is everything working fine. So here we can see our app is working fine, and also we can see whatever that color royal blue we provided to that status bar, so this color has also changed. Now let's minimize it. And now first thing we will see how applications gets data to show to the screen. So let's go to the design. So here we can see applications gets data from two sources. First one is local storage, means phone's storage we can get data, and also we can get data from a remote server. What this remote server is? Remote means that is something very far. Server means there is a computer which is placed at some place. We can get data from that computer. And how we can get data? We can get data through an API. What this API is? This API means there will be many functions, so we can talk to that computer's database. So in our newsroom application, we will get data related to news articles. So getting these news data, there is an API called News API. So we will use this News API in our application. So this News API will help us to fetch data from that server to our application. First, we will need to get an API key. What this API key means? Because this news API should know who is getting data. So what they do, they give an API key. So with the help of that API key, we will request some data and they will know that we are requesting that data. So let's click on this get API key. So here this will be requiring you to create an account to this website. So you should also create an account. I have already created an account. So here this is my API key. So you should also get an API key. We will take this API key as a developer because we only need this API key for learning purpose. If you want to use this news API data for some project which will be used in production, so you should upgrade to their paid plan. When you get the API key, you should copy this and let's go to the newsroom application. So here we will create a package data remote. Now let's create a news API interface in this remote package. So like this we will keep our API key in this news API file. Right now this API key I have placed in this news API file because this is for learning purpose. If you want to use this API key for some project which will be used for production, so you should keep this API key at some safer place. Now let's go back to the documentation. Here we can see this is the documentation of this news API. Here let's click on this top headline. Now if we want top headlines of the news, so we can get with the help of this documentation. So now what they are saying, the first thing they are giving this example. Here they are saying this is a GET request. What this GET request means, we are getting some data. So basically there are mainly four types of request. First one is get data, for getting some data from the server. Another one is post request, for creating some data to that server. Another one is delete, for deleting some data from that server. One more is put, for updating some data. So mainly these are the four requests. So for getting this top headline we need to use a get request, and this will be the URL. So first let's copy this URL and go to that file, and here let's comment out and paste that URL. So here we can see this part is called base URL. So what that base URL means, you need to put this part with every request. So what we will do, we will copy this base URL and let's make a constant, and after this base URL this part is called endpoint. So endpoint means what is the resource you want to get from that server. So we want the top headline, so this is the endpoint, and there is a question mark after the endpoint. That question mark means that after this question mark whatever is there, these are the parameters. So first parameter is this country. Here they are providing the country US, and after this first parameter here we can see there is a end, and this end means that there is an another parameter called API key, and our API key we need to provide with every request. Now go back to that documentation, and here we can see these are the parameters we can provide. So first one is this API key. This required means that this is a must parameter, and also there is another parameter is country. So these are the list of different countries code we can provide to get the news article related to that country. So in our application we will use the US code to get the data related to US country. And another parameter is this categories, and here we can provide a particular category, so we can get the data to that particular category. And also there is a source parameter. So here we can provide also source, so we can get the data to that particular news agency. And also there is a parameter q for querying any particular news, and these two are for page sizes and page. Now let's go to our application and create a function first, and then we will discuss. So here I have created this function. So how our application will talk to that news API. So we will talk to that news API with the help of this retrofit library. So this retrofit library help us in getting data from any API. So first we need to annotate this function. So what type of request this is? This is a GET request. So here we can see this GET request annotation is coming from this retrofit library. And in this GET annotation we need to provide that endpoint. and after that endpoint we can see there are parameters. So this is the way we provide parameters with the help of this query annotation. Here we can also see this query annotation is also coming from that retrofit library. So we will query three things mainly. First, this API key parameter will be must, so we will provide this API key with every request, and I have provided this default value. And also we will query about this country. Here I have provided this US code. You can use any of the code which have been given by this documentation. So you can choose any of this code, and also we will provide the parameter of this category, so we can choose a particular category news. Now we will see what data this function will return. So let's go back to the documentation and let's scroll down. So here we can see like this we will get the response, like here this status object and this total result and this articles, and for each articles these will be the properties like title, description, URLs. Now we need to create some data class to receive these response objects. So how we can get these data? So first let's scroll up, let's select this URL and let's click on this go to web address. So here we can see this is the response object we will get, and you can see I am getting this response object in a beautiful manner because I am using an extension called JSON formatter. If you are not using that extension, you will receive this response like this. You need to select all this data and copy this, and let's go to the Android Studio, and here we will create a new package. In that model package, let's right click on this and let's go to this new, and here we can see there is an plugin called Kotlin data class file from JSON. So what this plugin is? So this plugin helps us in creating Kotlin data class from a JSON file. So if you don't have this plugin, you can get by simply go to that settings by pressing Ctrl Alt S, and here let's click on this plugin, and now you can search this JSON to Kotlin class and install this plugin. I think you also need to restart your Android Studio to use this plugin. So let's close this setting dialog and let's go back to this model package and click on this plugin, and now let's paste all that data here. Here we need to provide a name for that response object. So let's click on this generate. So what that plugin did, so that plugin has generated these three files. Now first let's go to this news response file. Here we can see with that news response we will get these three things, and we can also go back to that documentation and see we will get these three things from that response. And also this articles value will consist of many articles. So let's go to this article class, and here we can see this article data class will get these many values, and also we can see here this article will get these values, and also this source is an object. So here let's go to this source, and here we will get the ID of that source and also the name of that source. I made many requests to that API, and in many cases what happens, this API returns me some values as a null. So what we will do, we will keep a null mark to some values like this, and let's go to that source and here also, and now let's close these two files and let's go back to this news API. Here we will return that news response data class. Now the next thing, we need to create a repository class for handling that error and success case. So let's go to this domain package and create a new package called repository. And here let's create a new file called news repository. Here let's create a function like this, and for handling that error and success case we will make another class named resource where we will keep the success and error data. So for that let's create a new package called util in that newsroom package, and let's create a new file called resource. So like this will be our resource class. So this will be of type T. Type T means it can be of any type. And also this resource class will hold two values. First one is data. It will be of type T. Again, it can be of any type, and we will provide the default value null. And this resource class will also hold this error, and again this will be of nullable string, and we will provide null as a default value to this message. Of this resource class, these will be the two subclasses. First one will be the success, and this success class will get the data, and this error class will get the message. So whatever data success class will get, we will provide to that resource class like this. And also whatever message we will get from that error subclass, we will provide to that resource class. So this will be the resource class which will help us in keeping the error message and the success data. So let's go back to that news repository, and here we will return the resource class, and that resource class will hold list of news articles. Now we need to provide an implementation of this class. Now let's go back to that data package, and here let's create one more package called repository, and in this repository package we will create a new file called news repository implementation. So this class will extend to that news repository interface, and let's click Ctrl I, and here let's press enter, and we can override that function. And also we will use an object of that news API interface like this. So like this we will manage that error and success case. First what we will do, we will use the try catch block. Now if we get any error in calling that API, what we will do, we will catch that through this exception class. We will provide that error message to our resource class, and if we get those articles successfully, we will provide those articles to that resource class. Now after this news repository, the data will go to the view model. So in that view model, we will manage some states and events, and then we will show the data to the screen. So now let's scroll down, and there is a package called UI. So we will rename this package by pressing Shift F6, and let's rename it to presentation. Here let's create a new package called news screen, and let's create a class called news screen view model. So let's extend this class with viewModel class. So it should know that this is our viewModel. Here let's create one value and a function. So like this, I have created these two things. First, this article value is giving error. So let's hover a mouse over it and let's import some values. Again, let's import. So with this, these get value and set value, these two things will import. Now it is not giving error anymore. And I have also created this get news article function. So first let's minimize these imports, and here we can see we are creating an object of news repository interface, and with that object we are calling that get top headlines function, and if that function returns success we will update that data to this article's value. Now let's create a news screen, and in that news screen we will show this list of news articles. Let's click on this news screen package and create a new file called news screen. So here I have created this news screen composable function, and we are passing a view model through the parameter. And in this news screen we are creating a lazy column layout. First we will see what this lazy column means. First let's see what's the meaning of column layout. Column layout means it places its children above and below, and this lazy means it creates children lazily. So when we have large number of items in a list, so what we will do, we keep that list in a lazy column or lazy row. So what this lazy column will do, it will create only those items which will show on the screen. So whenever user scroll the screen up, so the below items will show up on the screen, and then the Android will create only those items which are shown on the screens. So in this way Android will save its resources in creating objects. And in this lazy column layout, with the help of these parameters, first let's see what this content padding. So this content padding means it will give some spacing all around the four sides, and this vertical arrangement I have given this 16 dp value. It means that in between each items there will be a gap of 16 dp, and in this lazy column we are providing the whole list of those articles, and in this items composable we are only showing title of those articles in text composable. Now we will call this news screen in our main activity. Why we are calling this in the main activity? Because in through this main activity our code will start running. So here let's provide that news screen. Now it is asking for the view model instance. If I create an instance of view model, then also it will not run, it will give us error, because right now there are many things which are not correct. So we will look all these things one by one. First let's go to this news API file. So this is the first file we are getting data in our application, and after this we are passing the data into that news repository implementation. Here we can see we are creating an object of this news API, but right now what is happening, this news repository implementation doesn't know how to create an object of this news API and from where it will get the object, and this is called dependency injection. What it means that this news repository implementation is depend on this class. Now we need to provide an object of news API to this news repository implementation. For that, let's go to that newsroom package and let's create one more package called DI, dependency injection. And in that package, let's create a new file called app module, and it will be of type object. So like this, we will provide the object of that news API class. How? First, we need to annotate our app module object with this module annotation. Here we can see this module annotation is also coming from this Dagger Hilt library. So here this Dagger Hilt knows that this is our module where we will provide the objects, and we also need to annotate it with install in singleton component class. And like this we create every provide functions. First we need to annotate all those provide functions with this provides annotation. So in this way this Dagger Hilt should know that this is our provide function, and also we need to annotate it with singleton, so it should create a single object for whole application. It should not create every time a separate object. This is the meaning of singleton. It should create a single object for the whole application, and whatever classes object we are creating, we need to return that class of that function. So here we need to create an object of that news API. So we will provide a return to this function. And here this news API is using retrofit. So first we will create a retrofit object. So this is the way we create retrofit object. So retrofit provides a builder class, and here we need to provide a base URL. I have provided this base URL. This is the same value. Let's press Ctrl B. So this is the same value we made in this news API. And let's go back to that. And here we are adding a converter factory, this JSON converter factory. So this JSON converter factory will help us in getting data from that JSON to our Kotlin file. And in last we will call this build functions. Like this we will create a retrofit object, and here with this retrofit object we have used this create function, and here I have provided this news API class. So in this way an object will create of news API. Now let's go back to that news repository implementation. Now it knows how to create an object of this API, how the data is going forward from this news repository implementation. It is going to that news screen view model. Now we can see here what we are doing. We are accessing the data from the interface. Let's click on this interface, and in that view model we are calling this function. But what is happening, we have provided an implementation of this function in our news repository implementation class, but this view model doesn't know that there is an implementation of this interface. Now again we need to provide this thing that there is an implementation of this news repository interface. So this thing we need to provide. So again let's go back to that app module, and here we will create one more function. So here we can see in this way we will say that there is an implementation of this news repository interface with the name of news repository implementation, and this news repository implementation requires an object of news API, but we already have created an object of this news API. So this retrofit will itself provide an object to this function. Dagger Hilt will itself call these functions and create an object with the help of these functions. Now we can close this file and let's go to that view model. Now we can see this view model is also getting an object of news repository interface. Now how this view model will create an object of this news repository interface? We just need to provide annotation of inject. So with the help of this annotation and this constructor keyword, it will provide an object of news repository. Now from this view model, the data is moving forward to this news screen. And here we can see we need to provide an object of this news screen view model. So this is also very simple. Let's go back to this news view model and annotate this view model with Hilt view model. With this annotation, this Dagger Hilt will know that this is our view model and it will create an object itself. Now let's go to this news screen and we can pass Hilt view model object. Now few more things we need to do. First, let's go to this newsroom package and create a new file, and let's extend this class with application class. So this should note that this is an application class, and also we need to annotate it with Hilt Android app. If Dagger Hilt needs an object of application class in the whole project, with the help of this annotation, it can create an object. And now let's go to that Android manifest file, and here we need to provide the name of that application class. And let's also get the internet permission here. So like this we get internet permission. Now one last thing we need to do, let's go to the main activity. Here, because our code will start running from this file, so again we need to annotate this file with Android entry point. Now our app is complete, so let's go to the view model, and here we can see this function is not calling from anywhere. This is because that there is no button in our screen, so we can get the data through that button. So what we need to do, we will call this function in that init block. So what this init block is, so whenever this news screen view model will create, this get news articles function will call itself automatically with the help of this init block. Now we can run our app and see is this working or not. Now we can see our app is working perfectly fine. We are getting these titles of all those news articles. Now the next thing what we will do, we will create a beautiful news card to present these news articles in those cards. So let's minimize this and let's minimize this and let's close all these files, and let's go to this presentation package and let's create a new package called component, and in that component package let's create a new file called news article card. First let's go to the design. Here this will be our cards. So what we will use, first we will use a card composable, and in that card composable we will take a column layout. So like this we will create a whole card. So first let's code and then we will discuss further. So like this, I have created this news article card. What we are doing? First, let's minimize these imports, and here I have taken this card composable. This card composable is coming from this material 3 library. So we will use this card composable, and in that card composable I have provided this clickable modifier because this whole card will be clickable. And in this card I have taken a column layout. First I have taken this text layout for the title, and here we can see I am using this typography from that material 3 library. So that material 3 library provide various types of typography. So here let's click Control B, and here we can see these are the various types of typography we can get. So you can take whatever typography is fitting for your use case. So here I have used this title medium typography, and here I am using this max line to 1 because that title will be of maximum 1 line, and if that title doesn't come in that 1 line, then it will show 3 dots in the last with the help of this overflow parameter. And after this text composable, I am using this spacer for giving space between title and this row. After that, I am using this row to keep these two text composable in one line. So here I am using this fill max width. So with the help of this fill max width modifier, this row layout will take the maximum width of that parent layout. And with the help of this space between arrangement, so what this space between arrangement will do, it places the children's to both ends, so it doesn't give free space before the first child and after the last child. So like this it places children's. So here I am using these two text composable for those two values. So now let's use this news article card in that news screen. So here instead of this simple text composable, we will use news article card. And here this on card click functionality we will give later. For every article it will create a card. So now we can run and see this change. Now we can see all those news articles are coming in these cards, but that image is missing. So now we will provide image to every cards. So for that, let's minimize this, and in that component package, let's create one more file called image holder. So like this I have created this image holder composable. So here we will pass the image URL through the parameter. Since our application will get image from the internet, so we will use the Coil library. So that Coil library will help us getting the image from the internet. So that Coil library provides us a composable function called async image. This composable function, we just need to provide these parameters and we can get the image from the internet. So here what we are doing, first in this model parameter we are creating a image request, and first we need to provide the context. So like this we will provide the context, and the data we will provide through the parameter. And this crossfade, what this crossfade means, first let's see what this placeholder means. So what happens when we get image from the internet, so it takes some milliseconds time to load. So in that meantime we will show this loading placeholder, and when we get the actual image, so instead of this loading placeholder it will show the actual image. But in transitioning from that placeholder to that actual image, it will give the fading effect with the help of this crossfade modifier. And this content descriptions means what this image is. So here I just have typed image. And next this content scale, so we are using this crop. So whatever is their image outside the aspect ratio, we will crop that image from the center. And here with the help of this modifier we are using this clip modifier because we need rounded corner to that image. So here I have provided 4 dp rounded corner shape, and this fill max width will take the maximum width of the available space. And this aspect ratio I have provided this 16 by 9. So sometimes what will happen, so there will be no image to that news article, or we can get some error in getting that image. So in that case we will show this error placeholder. So like this we will load our image. So let's use this image holder in our news article card. So here before this title we will use this image holder, and this image URL will come from that particular article. We can run our app again and see how it is looking. So now we can see our news card is looking perfectly good. For sometimes when the image is loading, we are seeing that loading image placeholder like this. And if we can get some error, so like this we will get this default news placeholder. So now the next thing, we will create a top app bar to this screen. So let's minimize it and let's close these files also. Now first let's go to the design. Now we will design this top app bar. Let's go back to the Android Studio, and here in the component package, let's create a new file called news screen top bar. This is how our top app bar will be. Right now this is giving error, so let's hover the mouse and let's opt in for this experimental annotation, and we will use this top app bar composable function. This composable function comes with the material 3 library. Here we can see. So first we have to provide the value of title. So here I have taken this simple text of newsroom, and I will keep this bold. And after this we will use this action parameter. So here we need to provide the action buttons. So all the icons which are on the right side of the top app bar, so they are called action. So with the Jetpack compose, some icons also come, so we can access those icons with the help of this icons class. And here we will use this default, and now let's delete it. And if I press dot, so here I can see these are the icons I can use which have come with the Jetpack compose. So right now we will use just search icon, and after this I need to change the colors of this top app bar from the default ones. So here in this way we will change the colors of this top app bar. So now we will use this top app bar in our screen. For that, let's go to this news screen, and here we will use the scaffold. So in this way we use this scaffold. So what this scaffold is also a composable function which helps us in placing components like top app bar, floating action button, bottom bar, drawer. So these components we can place with the help of this scaffold. So we just need to provide these components in the parameters of this scaffold, then this scaffold itself can place those components. So I have just provided this news screen top app bar in this top bar parameters. So this scaffold will place at the right areas. And here we have just provided the content of this scaffold. So here we will use this lazy column as the main content of this scaffold. And also we need to provide this padding values to the main child of this scaffold. So here we have provided this padding values to this lazy column here like this. Now we can run our app and see this top app bar. Now the next thing, we will give the functionality of that disappearing and appearing of this top app bar. For that, let's minimize it and let's minimize it also. And here in this top app bar, here we will provide this scroll behavior through the parameter of this new top app bar. So now let's go back to the news screen. So here we will create some values and provide that scroll behavior. Here I have created this scroll behavior value, and with the help of this top app bar default, here we will use this enter always scroll behavior function. So let's put that annotation with the help of this. So we need to provide this value at two places. First we need to provide in the scaffold with the help of this nested scroll modifier function. So here we will provide this scroll behavior, and also we will pass this scroll behavior value to that new stop app bar through this parameter. So now we can run our app and see this change. So let's scroll down it. So here we can see that behavior, and now let's scroll up. So that top app bar has now appeared. So it is working perfectly fine. Now next thing what we will do, first let's minimize it. So next thing we will design this scrollable tab bar. So for that, let's go to this Android Studio, and in this component package, let's create a new file called category tab row. So here this is how we will design our scrollable tab row. First I have created this category tab row function. Here we will access these three things through the parameter of this composable function. So first this pager state is giving error. So first let's use this obtain annotation, and this pager state is basically because we will use the horizontal pager for swiping the functionality for that category. So here I have used this pager state, and this categories list we will also pass through the parameters. So here I have used this scrollable tab row. This also comes with the material 3. So here we just need to provide these values. So first this is selected tab index. So we will use the pager state and we will take the current page value, and then we will say this is our selected tab index. And this age padding I have provided 0 dp because we don't need any padding in the starting and also in the end. And for this content of this scrollable tab row, first we will take the categories list, and for every items in this categories list we will use this for each index, and we will make a tab. So this tab is also come with the material 3. So here we just need to provide these values and it will create a tab. And this on click functionality we will also give through the parameter, and the content of this tab will be a simple text for every items in that categories. So let's use this categories tab row composer function in our screen. So let's go to here. Here I have created these three values. This categories list I have taken this same which has been given by the API. So these are the categories which are available in this API. Now here in this column layout I have first used this category tab row. So here I have passed this pager state and this categories list. And for that on tab selected, with the pager state this animate scroll to page function also comes. So with the help of this function we can go to that specific page on which that tab has been selected. So now let's run our app and see this change. Now we can see there is a scrollable tab row. So here like this we can scroll, and here we can click on any of this category, but it will not change the page because right now we cannot swipe to a different category because we have not provided that horizontal pager. So next thing we will provide this list in a horizontal pager. So let's minimize it. Now what we will do, we will wrap this lazy column in a horizontal pager. So here let's use that horizontal pager which comes in the material 3 API. So like this we are using this horizontal pager, and we also need to provide this page count. So how many pages will be there? So I have taken this categories list size, and for that pager state I have used that same pager state. And also we will keep our lazy column in this horizontal pager. So now we can run our app. So now our app has run. So let's swipe it. So now we can see our pages are swiped, but our list is not updating according to that category. So because we have not provided that functionality yet, that's why this is happening. So let's minimize it and this also. Now we will see two things. For that, let's go here. So these are the two things we will discuss. First one is this state. So state means any value that can change during the usage of app. So what are those values? So let's open our app. So here we can see when users select a different category, then what will happen? That list of news article will also change. So that articles list is a state. And also when user click on this search icon, then what will happen? Search bar will open. So this is also a state, because is that search bar visible or not? That is a state. Another thing is this event. So event means all the possible actions that user can do. So what are those actions user can do? User can click on different category like this. User can click on this search icon, and user can also click on this news card, and user can also click on that read full story button click. So these are all the users action. So these are called events. So we will manage these events and state in our view model. So first we will keep all these state and events in a separate classes, and then we will manage those classes in our view model. So first let's minimize it and go to this presentation package. Here in this news screen package, let's create one file for that states. So these all will be our states. So here I have also provided the initial value of all these states. Now we will create one more class for keeping all the events. So these all will be our events. Like for some events I have used this data class, and for some I have used this object. So this is because when with the users action some of value also come, then we use data class. Because when user will click on the news card, then we should also know that which card has been selected by the user. And when we don't need any value with the user section, then we use object, because when user will click on the search icon, then we don't need any value. That's why I have used this object. So now let's go to the view model. And here I have initialized these states like this. and also we will manage all those events in this single function. So here I have used this when block. So let's press Alt Enter and click on this add remaining branches. So here we will manage these events. Now we will give the functionality of that horizontal pager, how that category will change. For that, let's go to the news screen and here write some code. So here with the help of this launched effect, we will access the event of that horizontal pager. So here I have used this pager state as a key. So whenever this pager state will change, so then this launched effect will run. Here I am collecting this current page with the help of this snapshot flow. So whatever will be the current page, so I will provide the same item in that categories list, and also we are passing those two things through this parameter. So here this is giving errors. So now we will read this articles list from that state. So now when this event will call, so what we will do, let's go to the view model. So we will take the state and make a copy of that state and change the value of this category. So whatever the category user will select, we will pass that category in this state, and we will call this get news articles, and here we will pass the category of from that state, and also we will update the state of that article. So like this we will update the states of that article. So now let's go to the main activity and here pass those two values. So like this I have created this view model object and here I have provided this state, whatever state I have created in that view model, and also that on event function. So now we can run our app and see this change. Here and now let's swipe. Now we can see our articles list are changing. So let's swipe again. So again this is changing, and also when we click on any of this category, so it will fetch the details of that particular category. So now our horizontal pager is working. So now we will give the functionality of that loading bar. So whenever user click on a different category like this health, so what it should do first, it should also show the loading bar. So user should know that this page is loading. So for that let's minimize this and this also, and let's go to this view model. So when this new get news articles function will be called, we will keep the is loading value to true in the starting. When this function will load these articles successfully, then we will make this is loading value to false. So now let's go to the screen and scroll down, and here what we will do, we will keep this lazy column and that circular progress bar in a separate composable function. So here I have made this news articles list composable function, and in that list we will keep our lazy column layout, and after this I have used this box layout. So here I am checking this. If this state.isLoading value is true, then I will show this circular progress indicator. This composable function also comes with that material 3. So now let's call this news article list here. Now let's run our app again and see this change. So now our app has run. So now let's click on different category. So here we can see that progress indicator. Let's click on this science and here like this. So now we can see this progress indicator is working fine. Now the next functionality we will give that error state. So when any error happened, so what screen should show and what should happen. So for that let's minimize this, and here in this component package let's create a error screen. So like this we will use this retry content. So we will just use that column layout, and in that column layout we will use a text composable for showing the error message, and we will also place a button below to that text so user can click on that button for retry. So let's use this retry content in that news screen. So like this we will check if the error in that state class is not null, then we will show this retry content and scroll up, and here it is complaining for that on retry parameter. So let's pass blank right now and let's go to the view model. So like this, if we get the error, then we will update the state according to that error. We will provide the error message in that error state, and we will also put that is loading value to false and this articles list to empty list. And here if we get the success case, then we will put the error value to null. And one more thing what we will do, let's go to the news screen, and here when user will click on this on retry button, then we will call that on category change events. So whatever will be the category at that time when user click on that retry, so app will load that same categories list. Now let's run our app and see this change. So now our app has run. So let's swipe. Now we can see it is loading these articles. So now let's turn off the internet connection. Now if I click on any other category like science, so what will happen? This error will show. So now if I click on this retry button, nothing will happen. So let's turn on the internet connection again. Now click on this retry, and now we can see this has loaded that same categories news articles list. So here we can see our error state is also working fine. So next thing we will work on that, like if user click in any of this card, so what should happen, that bottom sheet should open. So we will make a content of that bottom sheet, and then we will give the functionality of that bottom sheet. So let's minimize this. In this component package, let's create a new file for that bottom sheet content. So like this I have created this bottom sheet content. So first let's minimize these imports, and here first we are using this surface, and let's also see the design of this bottom sheet content. So this will be the design. So first I have taken a surface layout and I have given some padding. So with the help of this padding there will be some gap outside all four sides, and in this surface I have used this column layout. So here we are using these text composable, and in between these composable I have used this spacer for giving some space between these, and also we will use that same image holder class we created for that image to show. And after that here I have used this row layout because these two tags I need in a single line. And in the last I have used this button composable for that read full story button. So now we will use this bottom sheet content in our news screen. First let's create some values here. So like this we will give the functionality of this model bottom sheets. So here right now this is giving errors. So for that let's go to these imports, and here let's find that remember. Let's make two copies and import get value and set value. So now it should not show those errors, and let's also keep it where. So here I have created this sheet state with the help of this remember, and here I have passed this skip partially expanded to false. What happens generally, this model bottom sheet first open partially, when user scroll up then it opens fully. So we don't need that functionality because our content is not that large enough. So we will skip the partially expanded stage. And after that I have created this should bottom sheet show boolean value. So here we will keep the state of that model bottom sheet in this value. So when this value will become true, so whenever user click on any of the card, so this value become true. So let's go to that on card clicked, this on card clicked, and here I will put that should show value to true, and only in this case its value will become true. And when this value will become false, whenever user dismiss the model bottom sheet. So when this on dismiss request will happen, so when the user click outside the bottom sheet, then this on dismiss request will happen. So here we will put this value to false again. And also when user navigate to the new screen, then also we need to close this bottom sheet. So when user click on this button, then also we will make it to false. So apart from this on dismiss, if this model bottom sheet is disappearing, then we need to handle two things. First, we need to call this hide function in that sheet state, and also we need to make this should bottom sheet to false. So here I have used this coroutine scope, and here first I have make this hide, and now I am calling this invoke on completion. So what should happen when this action will complete, then this action will do. Here I am checking if that sheet is state dot visible is false, then what I will do, I will make it this value to false. So like this we hide that model bottom sheet if we are not using this on dismiss request. Now one more thing we need to do. Let's go. So here now when user click on any of this news cards, then we should also trigger that on card clicked event. So whatever card user has clicked, we will pass in that event. So here in this view model, we will manage that event. So here we are updating this selected article value to whatever article card user has selected. And we are reading this selected article state in our news screen. Here we are reading that state, and if that state is not null, then we will show that bottom sheet of that article's content. So now let's run our app and see this. So now let's click on any of this card like this one. So now we can see this bottom sheet is opening, but we can see like let's click again. Now it is opening partially. So I think I have did something wrong. Like let's minimize this, and here I need to keep this skip partially expanded value to true. So let's keep it true, and now let's run our app again. So now let's click on like this card. So now we can see our bottom sheet is opening fully, and our content of that sheet is also looking perfect. Let's change the category of something else, and let's click on this card. So now we can see our bottom sheet is perfectly fine, and also when we scroll down, then this bottom sheet should disappear. Now the next thing we will work on this, like if I click on this read full story button, then this should navigate me to the article screen so I can read the full article. For that, let's minimize this and let's close all these files also. Now first I will design an article screen. For that, let's create a package in that presentation called article screen. In that package, let's create a file called article screen. So first let's see the design of this article screen. So here we can see our article screen will be very simple, like there will be a top app bar in the top, and there will be a web view for this whole article, and that's all. So let's write some code for this article screen. So this will be our article screen. So first what I have did, I have taken a scaffold layout, and here I have passed this fill max size modifier. So with the help of this modifier, it will take the full size of the phone's screen. And for this top app bar, what we will do, let's go to that news screen top app bar, and let's copy this top app bar and paste it here and change some values. So like this, I have changed the text of this article, and also I am using the navigation icon of that arrow back, and here we are changing the navigation icon color also. And now we can minimize this top app bar, and here in this scaffold content there should be a box. In that box I have provided this content alignment to center. So in this box I am using this Android view for that web view. So with the help of this code we can show the web view, and also I am using this is loading value for keeping a check that if that page has been loaded or not. If it is still loading, then we will show that circular progress indicator. Now when this screen will create, then this value will become true. Circular progress indicator will start showing. So when this will become false, so we will check in this web view that is that page has loaded or not. For that, let's create an object of web view client, and here let's override that on page finished function. And here we will say if that page has finished loading, then we will keep that is loading value to false. So now that's all the code for this article screen. Now if I click on this read full story button, then it will not show the this article screen. So now we will provide that functionality, like when I click on this button, then it should navigate me to this article screen. So for that, let's come here in util package and create a new file called navgraph setup. So here I have created this navgraph setup composable function, and in that I have used this nav host which comes with the compose navigation library. So here we need to provide the nav controller. So we will pass through this parameter. So let's first use this nav graph setup in our main activity. So like this I have created this nav controller with the help of this remember nav controller, and I have passed that nav controller in our composable function. And let's cut this code and let's go back to that nav graph setup, and here we need to pass that start destination and also all the screens of our app in that composable function. So like this we will put all our screens in this composable function. So here we need to provide the route. So for our first screen, that is news screen, we will provide a simple route that will be that news screen. And also this screen will be our start destination. So whenever app will open, we will start from this screen. So here I have provided this start destination. And also for the next screen, that article screen, our route should be like this. Why this is so much complicated? Because this article screen will accept an argument. So here after this I have put a question mark for that argument, and here I have used the name of that argument web URL, and I will pass the web URL in that argument. Here we also need to specify that this screen will receive arguments. So what are the arguments this screen will receive? I have named it this web URL argument, and also this will be of type string type. So now let's pass that argument through this news screen. So here I have created this parameter, and here we will pass a string. So whenever user click on this button of that bottom sheet, so here we will pass the URL of that article which user has clicked. So let's go back to that nav graph setup, and here we will say like this. We will say we need to navigate to this route. So where is this route? So here is this route. So here it will navigate us to this screen. So whatever URL we have passed from that screen, we will access that URL here. Like this we will access that URL. And also when user click on this back press button, so what we will do, we will say nav controller dot navigate up. So with the help of this function we can go back to that screen from where we have come to this screen. So now one more thing we can do, like if we see that this web URL text is using again and again, for that let's come here and let's create a value, and let's use this value everywhere. So like this I have replaced everywhere. Now we can run our app and see this is working or not. Now let's click on this article and let's click on this read full story button, and here we can see this has navigated us to this article screen. So let's scroll down, and now we can see we can read the full story, and also that circular progress indicator has disappeared because we have successfully loaded this page. So like this we can read the whole article. So let's go back to that screen, and now let's click on this science category, and now let's click on some news like this one. So again let's click on this button. Now this article has also been loaded. So this feature is also working perfectly fine. Now the next thing we will work on this, like right now we can see we are just using that date time whatever we are receiving from that news API. So next thing we will work on this. So we will change this to a particular date format. So for this, in this util package, let's create a new file called date formatter. So like this, I have created this date formatter function. So here we will get the input date time, and we will use this date time formatter class, and also we will select the input formatter, output formatter, and we will parse with the help of this function. So also we will use this try catch block, because if any error happens for this code, so we will catch the exception and we will just save the empty value to this date string and we will return this date string. Now this date formatter function we will use in that news card. So for that, let's go to that card. So this is giving error. So let's go back to that date formatter function and let's make it to nullable. So here now it will not give error anymore. So let's use this date instead of this, like this. Now let's run our app again and see this. Now we can see our date showing in a particular format, like we can see in every card. Now the next thing we will work on this, like if user click on this search icon, then that search bar should show up. So for that, let's minimize these. Now in this component package, let's create a new file called search app bar. So this will be our search app bar. So let's put a comma also here. Here I have taken this text field for this search app bar, and this value and on value change we will pass through the parameter of this function. And this leading icon I have provided this search icon. So let's go to the design. So like this will be our leading icon, and also this search icon is little bit dull. So what I have did, I have taken the copy of this white color and I have provided the alpha value to 0.7, means 70%. After this I have used this placeholder search. Again the color of this placeholder I have made little bit dull, and after this I have used this trailing icon because this trailing icon will be clickable, so I that's why I have put this in a icon button. So here what I am doing, I am checking if that value is not null, then it means there is some value, like it is showing Android text. So when user click on this close icon, then what it will happen, first this Android text will disappear. Then this thing I have did. So first, if this value is not empty, then what I will do, I will call this on input value change and I will pass the blank string. And if that is already blank, it means now I need to call this on close icon clicked. So that search bar will disappear in that case. And after this, I have used this keyboard option, that IAM action, to search. this icon in the bottom right corner of that keyboard is called IME action. So I am using this search icon, and also I have used this on search functionality with through the parameter, and in this way we will change the color of this search app bar. So now let's use this search app bar in our news screen. First let's close all these files and let's open search screen, and here I have taken this column layout and I have used this fill max size. In this column layout, I have used this crossfade composable function. So this crossfade composable function helps us in switching between two layouts. So what we will do, if the state of this is search bar visible is true, then we will show the content in this block, and if it is false then we will show the content in this block. So what we will do, let's minimize it and cut and paste that content here. So when this is visible value will be false, then we will show this content. And now if that value is true, then we will show that search app bar and news articles list. Here we are using this content if this is visible value is true. So now we will see when this is search bar visible value will switch between true to false. So initially let's press Ctrl B. So initially it will be false. So how it will change to true? When user will click on that search icon in the top app bar, then this value become true. So let's go to the screen and let's find out that search icon. So here let's scroll down. When user click on this, let's trigger that event. Now go to the view model, and here this is the event. So what we will do, we will change the state to true. Now we will see how this value will become false. So again let's go to the screen. So when user will click on this on close icon clicked, then again it will go back to that news top app bar. So let's attach that event. Now again let's go to the view model. Let's copy it, and here we will make it false. So like this value will change to true to false, false to true. One more thing we need to do, that when the user will click on this on search icon, then that news articles list should become empty. Like this, I have provided this articles list value to empty list, and now go back to that news screen and let's keep these two things in a column layout. Now let's run our app and see this change. Now let's click on this search icon. Now we can see this search app bar has appeared, and I think I forgot to change this trailing icon to close icon. So we will change this. Now let's click on this. Now we have come back to this news screen again. Again let's click on this search icon. So one more thing we will work on, that whenever we come to this screen, so keyboard should appear automatically, and this also. And let's go to this search app bar. First thing we will change that trailing icon to close. Now go back to the news screen, and here we will create some more values. So this is giving error. So let's hover the mouse and obtain this experimental annotation. And we will use these three values. So first let's use this focus requester. So this focus requester helps us in focusing the text field. So first we need to specify which text field we need to focus. Here this is the search app bar we need to focus. So here with the help of this focus requester modifier, I have passed that focus requester value. And now we need to define that when it should focus to this search app bar. So when it should focus, when user click on that search icon, then it should focus. Now let's go to that on search icon clicked. So here we will say, so like this, I have used this focus requester dot request focused, and I have also used this delay function. So why? Because when user click on this search icon, search bar will appear. So it will take some milliseconds. So I will keep some delay of 500 millisecond. Then I will call this focus requester dot request focus. Now when the keyboard will open like this, now when user click on this search IME action, then this keyboard should disappear and also the focus from this text field should go away. For that, let's go to this search IME action, and here we will say keyboard controller to hide and that focus manager for clear that focus from that text field. And also let's go to the view model, and when user click on this on close icon clicked, it means it has now come back to that main screen. So again we will call that get news article function like this. Now we can run our app and see this change. Now let's click on this search icon, then this search bar will open and also that keyboard has also come up automatically. Now let's click on this search IME action. Then we can see that keyboard has disappeared and also from focus has been go away from that text field. Let's click on this close icon. So now again this has loaded that general category news. Now the next thing we will work on that, like now if I try to type something, nothing will happen because I have not given this functionality. Now we will give the search functionality from the top. So let's minimize this and let's minimize this also. Now let's go to the news API, and here let's copy this function and change some values. Like this will be our search function. We are calling that everything endpoint. Now let's open that news repository interface and create one more function by copying it. Like this, now let's go to the news repository implementation, and here after this let's click Ctrl I and enter. And now let's again copy paste this code. Now let's go to the view model, and here let's copy this get news article function and make some changes. So here first we are checking that if that query is empty, then we will return from this function, and here all the other code is same as that function. And let's go to the news screen, and in this on input value change, what will happen? So in that search field, when user will type some value, we will get that value through this on input value change function. So here we will pass that value to that user action. So like this we will pass that new value to this event and in that view model and here we will manage that event. Here first we are updating that search query state with the search query we are receiving from that user's action. And let's go back to the news screen and whatever will be the updated state we will read from here. Now let's go back to the view model. Here what we are doing, we are calling this search for news function with every keyword it is coming through the user's action. But this is not appropriate. Let's first make some changes and then we will discuss. And let's also delete this value. Here what I have did, first I have created this search job variable. So it should be nullable job. So here what is happening with every keyword, first I am updating that search query state. Then it will come to this line. If that search job is null because it is first time, then it will not do anything. Then it will come to this line. So what it will do, it will take a delay of 100 millisecond, means 1 second. Then it will call this search for news action after 1 second. Now during the delay of this 1 second, if a new keyword will come, so what it will do, it will start running code from the first line. So again first it will update the state of search query. Then it what it will do, it will cancel the previous job because now the new keyword has come before the completion of this 1 second delay. So this will cancel the previous job and now the new job will start. So again it will start the delay of 1 second. So in this way we will only call this search for news function after a delay of 1 second, means user had stopped typing that word. And also in this way we will make less requests to that API. So now let's run our app and see this change. Now let's click on this search icon and type some keyword like Android. Now we can see after 1 second it will search those news related to that keyword. So let's click on this search IME action and that keyword will go away. Now we can read news articles related to that Android keyword. And now let's click on this close icon and again that close again we have come back to that main screen. So now let's click on that search bar again. Now type like Google. Now let's open this news and let's click on this read full story. Now if I go back to that main screen, what will happen? Now we can see that keyword is there, but now it has loaded the news related to that general category. Why this is happening? So let's minimize this and this also and let's go to the news screen. So here we are using this launched effect. So what this launched effect is doing, whenever user come to this screen from that article screen, so this launched effect trigger itself. So this launched effect calls to that on category changed events. It will load the news of that category, but there is no specific solution for this. What we can do, there is a workaround. We can put a one more launched effect that if there is any search query, then what it will do, again it will call to that on search query change event. So here I have put this one more launched effect and here I am using this unit as a key. Here I am checking this. If that search query is not empty, it should trigger that on search query changed event. So what it will do? Let's go to the view model, and here on that on search query change, it will again call that search for news functions. And now we can remove this init block, because with the help of that launched effect we are calling this get news article function already. And now let's run our app again and see this thing. Now let's click on this search icon, and here again search that Google. Let's go to that read full story. Now let's go back to that main screen. It has now loaded the news articles related to this Google keyword. So now we can close this search bar. Again, it has now loaded that news article related to general category. Now click on some other category. Here again it is working perfectly fine. So now we can see our app is totally working fine, and we have provided all the functionality to our application. So this is all we will do in this application. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.